For 40 years, the story of HIV has been this relentless, incredible scientific pursuit. And today, we're at a point where we're not just talking about managing a virus anymore. We are on the very edge of defeating it. So let's dive into the three amazing frontiers where this battle is being won: control, prevention, and yeah, the ultimate goal, a cure. Now, look at this. You might think this headline is from some far-off future, right? But nope. This was published more than a decade ago. The idea of curing HIV, it's not science fiction. For a handful of people, it's already a medical reality. It was the proof we needed that the virus can be completely kicked out of the human body. And that really leads to the biggest question of all, doesn't it? If we know a cure is possible, why isn't it an option for everyone? Well, the journey from one single, frankly miraculous case to a solution for the whole world is incredibly complicated. And to really get it, we've got to explore three totally different but connected scientific battlegrounds. Okay, so first things first. Before we can even really get into a widespread cure, we have to look at the absolutely monumental progress we've made in just controlling the virus on a global scale. This is the foundation that every other breakthrough is built on. I mean, just let this number sink in for a second. By 2022, nearly 30 million people all over the globe were on life-saving antiretroviral therapy, or ART. That is genuinely one of the greatest public health achievements in all of modern history. And the change has been, well, it's been staggering. Before ART, getting an HIV diagnosis was basically a death sentence. The virus would just chip away at your immune system until it led to AIDS. But today, ART lets the immune system fight back, turning what was a fatal infection into a manageable chronic condition. And, this is so important, it makes the virus untransmittable. So, to actually end the epidemic, the world set these really ambitious goals. The idea is to get almost everyone diagnosed, on treatment, and virally suppressed. And just look at this. Several countries have already done it, many of them in the very region that was hit the hardest. It's proof that this is possible. But, and this is a big but, the fight is nowhere near over. This number here, that's the gap. That's 9.2 million people, and it includes hundreds of thousands of kids who still don't have access to the treatment they desperately need. So while we celebrate the wins, this huge challenge of access and fairness is still right in front of us. And this brings us to the core scientific problem. Why isn't art a cure? Well, the answer is something called the latent reservoir. Think of it like a tiny squad of infected cells that are hiding out in the body, completely silent and asleep. ART can't see them, can't touch them. And if you stop taking the medicine, they wake up and the virus comes roaring back. Dealing with this reservoir is the key to everything that comes next. All right, let's switch gears to our second frontier, prevention. An effective vaccine is kind of the holy grail, right? A way to stop the virus before it even gets in the door. But for 40 years, it's remained one of the toughest challenges in all of science. So why is it so darn hard? Because the HIV virus is a master of disguise. Its outer shell, the part our immune system needs to see and recognize, is constantly changing, constantly mutating. It's like trying to shoot a target that's not only moving, but it's also changing its shape and color every single second. And you can see the real-world result of that challenge right here. This was the recent, huge Imbokodo trial in sub-Saharan Africa. So much hope was riding on it. And the result? An efficacy of just 25%. Statistically, that's no better than zero. It was a huge disappointment, for sure, but it was also an incredibly important learning moment. So, out of that setback, a brand new, super sophisticated strategy is starting to emerge. It's called germline targeting. And instead of just showing the immune system a piece of the virus and, crossing your fingers, this is more like a precision training program. Scientists find the exact rookie immune cells that have the potential to be superstars. Then they use a series of custom-built molecules to wake them up and train them, step by step, until they become elite virus-fighting machines. And that brings us to our third and final frontier, the one that kicked this whole conversation off. The idea of actually curing HIV. We know it's possible. Why? Because it's already been done. The whole story kind of unfolds through these key patients. It all started with the Berlin patient. His cure was a total revelation, and it was linked to a stem cell donor who had this rare protective genetic mutation. Then came the Boston patients, and they taught us a tough lesson. Without that specific mutation, the virus comes back. But just recently, the Geneva patient completely changed the game again, achieving long-term remission without the mutation. It suggests there are other powerful ways to beat this thing. So here's the problem. All those cures needed a risky stem cell transplant, and most needed an impossibly rare donor. That's not a solution for millions of people. So scientists started asking this revolutionary question. What if we didn't have to find a donor? What if we could just engineer our own immunity? And that's where CRISPR-Cas9 comes in. You've probably heard of it. It's famously described as a pair of molecular scissors. Basically, we can program it to find one specific gene in all of our DNA. In this case, the gene for something called CCR5, which is basically the front door that HIV uses to get into our immune cells, and just snip it. And the strategy that this allows for is it's so elegant. You take a person's own stem cells, the factory that makes their entire immune system. You take them into the lab, use CRISPR to cut and disable that CCR5 gene, basically locking the door on HIV for good. Then you put those edited cells back into the patient, and they start building a brand new immune system that is permanently resistant to the virus. It's amazing. Okay, so editing our own genes is incredible, right? But it's not the only game in town. There's another really radical idea that's gaining a lot of steam. What if you don't actually have to get rid of the virus at all? What if you could just put it to sleep and make sure it never ever wakes up? This sets up a really fascinating comparison between the two main philosophies for a cure. For a long time, the big idea was shock and kill. You'd use drugs to wake up those sleeping virus cells so the immune system could finally see them and destroy them. But this new strategy, block and lock, does the exact opposite. It uses drugs to force the virus into a super deep hibernation, a permanent coma, creating what we call a functional cure. The virus is still there, technically, but it can never wake up and cause harm again. So when you look across all of these frontiers, from getting treatment to everyone on the planet, to designing these incredible new vaccines, to editing our own genes, to locking the virus down for good, the picture becomes so clear. The progress is just undeniable. And the question seems to be shifting from if we can finally end the HIV epidemic to a much, much more exciting one. Which one of these amazing scientific paths is going to get us there first?